Hi everybody, Jay Julio Vela along with the host of Reasonable Doubt, Justin Harris. How are you doing?
We've established I'm not the host, I'm just filling in till the host comes back.
Have you ever seen Wizard of Oz or like a brainchild scenario and you pull it back and you find Lori D'Angelo? I'm kidding.
On the Yellow Brick Road? What?
Lori, the savior of Harris County, the one to lead us into the new future, Miss Lori D'Angelo. Did I say that right?
You did.
How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Wonderful. Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association welcomes our guest, the Republican candidate for the Harris County Harris County District Attorney's Office, Lori D'Angelo. So hi.
Hi.
Say something to your people.
Okay.
Everybody's watching.
Well, as you know, I'm running for Harris County District Attorney. I was a prosecutor here in Harris County for more than 20 years. I just left the office in February of last year, and I've been doing criminal defense with y'all for the past year.
Welcome.
How has the change been? So, how's the change been? So, you are running for the top prosecutor office in the county. You've been a career prosecutor and one that has carried a solid reputation, and one that hasn't been cut by any administrations. Right? You've
That's
been
true.
there, and you've been a backbone of justice through the county. And in the interim, you've been a defense attorney.
Yes.
How's it been? How's it like over here?
I've really enjoyed it.
Talk to me about it.
It was a very smooth transition. It was a lot easier for me than I thought it would be. I think the most interesting thing has been, when you're a prosecutor, the defendants are they're defendants, they're a file, they're certain facts. You don't really see the person, as a prosecutor. And now on this side, you get to know them, and it's different. It's, some of these people are really good people who have made some really bad choices, and some of them are just bad. But it's a different perspective. I really like it.
Well, fair.
But
And
even the bad ones got a mama or a grandma,
Right.
and they're worried about them.
Yeah, and then you feel bad for the family, and you want to shake this person and be like, "Why are you doing this?
Yeah,
Why are you
doing this
making
to your
these?"
family.
Yeah, exactly.
did you leave the office with the intentions of running for the district attorney's office?
I did not.
And so you vested, you've been there, and you left. You're a
Yes.
defense attorney. Talk to me about how you decide to run for the district attorney's office.
When I was there, morale was terrible. It became a very unpleasant place to work, and I just had decided I'd had enough of it. So I was the chief of the 208th District Court when I left, and my court ran very smoothly. So I was used to how I did things and how my prosecutors did things. And then when I got out onto the other side, it made me see that the office was even more dysfunctional than I thought,
So
being on the inside.
you talk about how you did things, okay? As the top law enforcement officer in Harris County, how are you going to do things in court?
Well, okay, can I hold off on that question? Because you said you glossed over 20 years as a assistant district attorney. So who was the elected DA when you first started working there?
I started in 1998 with Johnny Holmes, and
So
then
you- Johnny Holmes, and then Chuck
Chuck
Rosenthal,
Rosenthal.
then Pat Lykos, then Mike Anderson, Devin Anderson.
and we had Ken Magidson in there.
Oh, that's right. And so there's that 7?
Yes,
including
7
Ken
total.
Ogg? And so you've been through morale changes and personnel and administrative changes.
Yes.
And you're saying that when you were working there, you didn't, up until February of last year, you didn't quite realize that the morale was where it is, that you see it now on the outside.
I knew it was bad. I just didn't realize how bad.
I heard they're working on through candlelight. Like there have been weekends that in the office there has been candles and no lights in the office. We asked District Attorney Ogg about this, and she actually said something to the effect of like, okay, that happened one weekend, but it's not like every weekend. I'm not kidding. She said that.
So I just wanted to see if you have any thoughts on like all those changes. Is it just has it progressively gotten worse, or is it just worse with the current administration? Or what are your thoughts on that, or your experience?
With every different DA, there's pros and cons. There's
Sure.
some things that were better, some things that maybe weren't. But the worst it's ever been has been since Kim took over.
Okay.
And
Why? Why do you say that?
Why do you think that?
Why do you say that?
Well, when she first took over, one of her big things was that she was going to restore discretion to the prosecutors. And we really liked that idea.
You read that 88-page discretion manual?
I did. Every word of it. That never went into effect. It never got finalized. At least not when I was
Oh, really?
there.
I just think it's funny to have 88 pages on do what you want.
It
Anyway,
didn't
sorry,
really
back to
say
the-
do what
That's
you
what it
want.
said.
It was
I
more
haven't
like
seen
go
anything.
through these
I haven't-
15
I
steps
haven't
to
seen
make any
anything. Of
Of
decision.
course, that's what 88 pages on discretion
Right.
is you're not going to have any discretion by page 87. So
Right.
anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt that.
Right. So what were we saying?
We were talking
I
about
think,
other reasons why.
I think it was
other
a
problems
general
you see.
principle of Kim sucks. I think.
No, that's not what I'm
Is that
saying.
what you said? Or
No, that
you
is not what I
or-
said.
I think okay.
When she took over, for a little while, we did have more discretion. And I thought, this is great. This is going in the right direction. And it just deteriorated. You know, if one group would complain, Kim would listen and make changes based on that. If the next week another group complained, she'd listen to that and make the changes based on that. So the rules changed every week.
Okay, fine. Rules change every week, but she's the top law enforcement officer in the biggest county in the country. That's a lot of pressure.
Sure.
And you have what, 200 or 300 human beings that you're looking over and after, and somehow answering for what being number 232 over here in this outlining county who just decides to make some stupid mistake and you have to cover it. That's a lot of thought process.
I'm not saying Kim's job has been easy.
I mean, you think you can do better?
I do.
This is JV playing devil's advocate.
Oh, is that what
It's
he's doing?
me playing I mean, you think you can do better?
I think if you show that you actually care about your employees, you know who they are, you know their names, you care about what they're doing, and you give them support and you back them up, I think that goes a long way. People are more apt to work hard and want to do better when they feel like they're supported, not when they feel like, they're every time they turn around they're going to get stabbed in the back.
There was so when when District Attorney Ogg took office and she brought in heavyweights, Vivian King, heavyweight, Joanne Music, two-time HCCLA past president, big heavyweight. Some of the individuals that she's fired, and she's bringing all these people in, and you disagree with that?
Yes. I think she fired too many experienced prosecutors all at once. Getting rid of 41 people off the bat was a terrible idea. She brought people in who had never worked at the DA's office or people who hadn't worked there in 20, 30 years and just threw them all in at one time. I think if she had walked in and gotten a lay of the land to kind of see what was going on and then made some decisions, she probably wouldn't be in the position she is now.
I tend to agree with you. I think that's a good position. I mean, we call it, what is it, Bloody Tuesday?
It was Bloody Friday.
Bloody Friday. And I'm sure you had a lot of peers that were let go
Yes.
because it was a literal, I'm coming in, we're changing some things, and these people just have to go.
It was, I'm coming in like 2 weeks, but before I get there, you 41 don't have a job anymore.
I heard that there was it an email or something?
Yes.
But it was an email.
We had gotten word that on that day, that Friday at noon, we were supposed to get an email telling us whether or not we had a job.
Oh.
So at noon, I was at lunch with two of my friends, and all of a sudden, an email comes out, and everybody's all tense. And it was from Jane Waters about some other random thing. And everybody was like, what are you thinking?
doing?
Of course.
So then it got, it was a little later, 12:15 or so, and I was texting with a friend who was back at the office, and he texted me and said, have you heard anything? And I said, no, and he's like, I got fired. I said, no, you didn't.
No.
And so that's how it went down, is the fired group got an email, and then I guess, 5 minutes or so later, the rest of us got an email. So I thought he was kidding when he texted me that, but...
I went to the courthouse today and I asked a lot about you because you and I have never interacted a lot. and you've been a backbone, you've been a vibe through the courthouse. So I'm a 10-year lawyer, you're a 20
going on 22 years.
22-year lawyer. So you're literally double my law. And I remember first coming in and you catch wind or ideas or names of certain prosecutors or even like of who to stay away from, how to deal with or whatever. And so today I went to the courthouse and I asked about you, and I had nothing but good things to hear about you and your legacy and who you are. And in fact, I got more good. I didn't get any bad. Like, I'm trying to think of like, okay, because I asked.
Bad.
No, I'm like, okay, Lori's on the show tonight. What do you want me to ask her? Like in the elevators.
Oh, she's so great. Find out how she's doing.
Yes, and believe me, when I asked Lloyd's on the show tonight, okay, I'm not kidding, or Adia's on the show tonight, or Kim Ogg's on the show tonight, or who
Todd
else?
Overstreet.
Overstreet's on the show. Everybody loves Overstreet.
We love Todd.
Just kidding. Everybody loves Todd. Who else is on the show?
Hopefully Mary Nunn, Huffman.
Huffman. Everybody's gonna be like, huh? Hey, on a side note,
Cloud.
if you can see me or if I'm on Facebook, my Facebook isn't working, so I don't know any comments or anything. You should send me some sort of sign.
Or call in the show.
Or call in. Can we put the number up? We might as well just open it. We have Lori here.
Yes.
Everybody called you Lori. You are known throughout the courthouse. I think on the Republican side, you are the only legitimate candidate. No disrespect to Lloyd and Huffman. Lloyd is a perennial candidate.
Sure.
He runs for everything. He's gonna win something. I'm thinking Lloyd for like railroad commission or something. I'm not kidding. He's gonna do it. Nobody knows who this Huffman person is. Lori, everybody knows you. I was so surprised.
Well, I've been doing it for a long time, Julio. I mean, the thing is, I decided to run. I didn't file until a couple days before the deadline because I kept hoping that somebody else more qualified would do it. I thought maybe Belinda Hill will do it, maybe Mark Brown will do it. Please do it. But then it was going to be, Lloyd, who is not an appropriate candidate, and Mary Nan, who I've since gotten to know, and she's a very nice lady, lovely. She just doesn't have the experience. Give her another 10, 15 years, it'll be different. But I did not like the fact that there was no experienced Republican candidate. And there's a chance that we can take this office back in this next election, and I wanted there to be somebody with experience. So when nobody else jumped in that had more, people kept encouraging me, and finally I just was like, I'm going to do it.
When did you jump in?
The filing deadline was December 9th, which was a Monday, so probably like the Thursday before, I think.
Do you think that as a Republican coming in, you can win?
I really do. I think, there are so many citizens that are upset and they don't like the way things are going. They don't feel safe in their community anymore. This is the first election with no straight ticket voting, and I think that's going to favor the Republicans.
I think your name carries a long way. I do. I mean, how many jury trials have you sat?
God, I don't know.
Right. That was a rhetorical kind of question, right?
So many over the years.
Right. And I think that your face, people are going to recognize your face and who you are. Why did you decide to run for the Harris County District Attorney's Office?
I don't have an interest in being a politician or running for any office. My only concern is the DA's office. I spent my entire adult life there. To me, that's home. That's where I met my husband. I feel like I grew up there. So the district attorney's office means something to me. It's special to me, and I want to make it better. So that's the only office I will ever run for.
Who are you going to surround yourself with?
Good people. Good, experienced people.
Ball. Okay.
I thought you weren't going to be a politician. That was a perfect political answer to that question.
Well, you can't offer people jobs ahead of time.
true.
That's against the law.
Right.
So I have spent a lot of time thinking about the people that I would ask to come back.
Well, everybody good went to the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Not all of them.
Well, fair enough. Fair
And
enough.
some of those might be willing to come back.
You think so?
Apparently, we have a better retirement system than they do.
Really? Oh,
So
you
I've been
heard
told.
it first. You heard it first.
So I've been told.
That is great.
But I will try to bring, some of the people back that got let go, some other experienced people that I think would be interested. But that's one of the most important things is getting experienced people back in there. And there are still good prosecutors at the office who have experience. They're just not necessarily being utilized.
Have you heard any of that, or do you feel any of that that's going on? That there's prosecutors out there that have potential that's not being maximized and such?
Yes.
Do you think as the Harris County District Attorney's Office, or do you plan to mine some of those individuals that are there to grow? If you come in, is it going to be another bloody Friday?
Or Thursday.
Thursday?
Maybe we'll do it on a Monday.
Yeah.
No Mondays. Okay,
Bloody
so
Monday. That works.
fair enough.
I don't know what day, but sure, there's people you have to let go.
Well, certainly-
There's people that Kim hired to basically campaign for her
Right.
on our dime.
Sure.
Those will be the first people to go.
Well, certainly you and Vivian King are going to be hanging out at the top of the office, right?
It is.
I mean,
Just
come
trying
on.
to get you to name names.
I mean, and certainly you and Joanne Music. I love you, Joanne, but
So one thing that I thought was really interesting, I read the Chronicle article endorsing you.
yes.
And
Congratulations.
they said that you came out in support of misdemeanor bail reform. I don't know if that was them using some editorial liberties there, or if that's what you actually feel. But what are your thoughts on the misdemeanor bail?
I guess
misdemeanor
when
bail
they
reform
say
also?
came out in favor of, they meant, we had an hour and a half long interview, and that was one of the things we talked about. And I told them that, people shouldn't be kept in jail just because they can't afford to pay when it's nonviolent misdemeanors or low-level felony drug cases.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to violent offenders, there is a serious injustice going on right now. The Harris County Jail is a revolving door, and that is what the citizens complain the most about in all these events I go to.
People don't believe you, Lori.
Don't believe what?
You're Republican. People don't believe you.
I don't think someone should be sitting in jail on a DWLI because they can't make bond.
But are you, I don't think anybody, I agree with that. But as a Republican, people are scared. They come and you win, they're afraid that it's going to go back to how it used to be. Are you saying it's not?
It's not going to go back to how it used to be, but it's not going to be like it is now. It's going to be somewhere in between where
good.
we have more experienced people. I know there are some people who are extreme on both sides where it's all or nothing on the defense side and the prosecution
Sure.
side. And I think the reason my reputation is what it is because I've always been fair and reasonable. There's two sides to every story. The truth is somewhere in the middle, and I'm always willing to listen.
I like this.
That sounds very
I like
reasonable.
this. I like
And
this.
that's how it should be.
I
And
like
that's how
this.
everyone
I
should be.
love this. I love this.
That's what I want for that office, is someone in charge who is fair and reasonable, willing to listen to people's ideas. We used to work as a team at the DA's office. It was a big family, and everybody had each other's backs.
Sure.
And now you feel like you're waiting to get stabbed in the back.
So
I do want it to go back to it being like a family where we all care and we work together.
When did you feel like that was last that way in the office? And let me just.
I know, I'm thinking
It's a loaded question, sort of. Well, it's not a loaded. There's an agenda behind it. Because when Todd Overstreet was on here, he just could not get over trying to take things back to the way Johnny Holmes did stuff. And when some other folks came and talked about that, they had some serious problems with the way that Johnny Holmes ran the office. And I just, I'm not saying Johnny Holmes or anybody else, but is there anybody who you kind of would role model after that you worked under?
Johnny was a very special person, and he had a certain bravado about him, and he didn't take any campaign funds.
Right.
So he only answered to himself, and he always just had, his own way of doing things. But one thing about Johnny was he was not very concerned about the employees as far as, how much money they made or the benefits. When Chuck Rosenthal took over, the first thing he did was start paying our bar dues. We used to pay our own bar dues.
Really?
And that, I mean, that went a long way. It was a little thing,
Sure.
but I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
Has the office grown? I mean, since you've been, I mean,
What was the
it's a
size
little
back
bit bigger, no?
God, I don't remember. It's now there's one more misdemeanor court than there was
Fair.
when I started, and there's still the same 22 district courts, which is ridiculous when you
Wow.
think about it.
People forget the amount of, everybody's talking this big deal about misdemeanor courts and bail reform and these kind of things. Awesome, cool, fair. But people forget there's like double the amount of felony courts that are out there. And there's a lot more issues that I'm not trying to minimize what misdemeanors going on with deals with that either, but there's a lot of felony courts out there. I don't mean to interrupt. Y'all are having one.
No, it's fine. I just want to know if
great.
there's just anybody
It's
who you worked under.
Well, I was going to say the DA's office has gotten bigger in the sense that there's more specialty divisions and that added more
Sure.
prosecutors. But the courts,
The trial
one more
bureau.
court, so you add 3 prosecutors.
Right.
Let's talk
That's
about
crazy.
efficiency in the courtrooms. Going back to how you ran your courtroom. Your courtroom was a model of efficiency.
Let me interrupt you 1 second to
Sure.
tell you something else, Justin, about what you asked. When we had Ken Magidson, one thing that he did that I thought was really special was when prosecutors would get a good verdict, he would go to their court the next day and talk to them, congratulate them, tell them good job. Hey, I heard you got 40 years on that aggravated robbery yesterday. That's awesome. Great job. Thank you for working so hard.
That went a long way with morale, I'm sure.
It did. I mean, it happened to me. I thought it was
remember
great.
it.
I mean, it was shot. Yeah, I still remember it. I mean, I think that's a big deal. I think little things like that make a huge difference.
Okay.
And that's probably the one thing I remember the most that I will do.
Okay. I like that.
I do think in the media that it appears like everybody's trying to watch their own back.
Yes.
Kim's trying to defend something. District Attorney Ogg is trying to defend something in the media that she's done. The line prosecutors in the courtroom are trying to justify the deals or offers that they're making. Morale is low. But then, you do find diversity has increased.
Yes.
And I do think that you have some good people that are prosecuting there. Structurally, how do you see, if you were to be the district attorney, how do you see changing, or do you have any ideas about implementing structures as the district attorney's office?
When Kim first took over, she said that there was too much middle management. And she turned the trial bureau into one division. It used to be 5, A, B, C, D, and E. She changed it to 1, and David was the trial bureau chief, and God, who was the division chief? John Jordan. John Jordan was supposed to oversee 22 district courts, and that's ridiculous.
Right, that's
and then it slowly
incredible.
changed. She kept adding middle management all over the place. Had she not gotten rid of it to begin with, we would have been better off. I think 5 divisions within the trial bureau is just right. There's too much that goes on in those courts. You can't expect one division chief. And now it's 3? And I still don't,
Well, now there's section chiefs and division chiefs.
Yeah, there's too many names, too many.
Yeah, and I only find out when it's, no, you can't do that, but you can appeal it to my division chief, and then you can appeal it to the section chief. And then
Yeah. And when the
bureau
org chart
chief.
gets so big that you can't fit it on paper.
2 pages?
It's like 2
yeah,
Two legal
yeah.
sheets?
I
I'm
think
like,
you need
forget
to do a little rearranging and consolidating. And
Have you thought about like anything kind of radical as far as restructuring? Like, I've heard different folks talk about, some people running for the office, some people just armchair quarterbacking the office, not having prosecutors assigned to courts, having prosecutors assigned to cases, and they kind of float around all day, like a defense attorney kind of style. Have you thought about anything, just not necessarily that, but anything that's just like, why don't we scrap the way we're doing it and just try to reimagine it from the ground up?
I think that would be a mistake. I think, throwing it all up in the air all at once would be a huge mistake. The problem right now is how inconsistent and disorganized it is.
Sure.
So I don't think that's the way to go.
Super inefficient.
Yes. Now, was I going to tell you?
Yeah.
No, I didn't really have anywhere to really go with that. Just if there's any thoughts of just kind of scrapping the whole thing and just doing a whole
Your
new
imagination.
structured
Well, how are you going
approach.
to?
No, so there was a lot of talk about, having the prosecutors in squads, and, the aggravated robbery squad would handle this. And when the judges initially heard about this idea of no prosecutors assigned to the courts, they were like, oh, hell no. And I just, as a prosecutor, I'm like, no, I want my court. I want organization. I want consistency. Not all this crazy running around trying to divide into,
Well, even from the defense
20
bar.
squad. Yeah.
Even from the defense bar, I want to know who's the chief in that court.
Right.
Who's the point?
Well, I mean, let's say you have 5 cases on the docket. You want to go to each court and wait for whatever squad member, for that case.
No, I'm sick and tired of waiting for squad members.
Yeah.
And how do you handle shuffles and promotions? Because you get the same frustration when it's like, I've been emailing the same person for 3 weeks and they're not responding, and finally I go to court and they're like, they're not there anymore. And they didn't respond and tell me I'm not in this court anymore. I'm CCing the new prosecutor. It happens like maybe 1 out of 5 cases that they'll do that. But you get the same kind of frustration with lack of efficiency that JV was mentioning, I think, from these frequent shuffles. And I don't know, maybe it just seems like they get more frequent. But
I don't know if you have enough. Are you
Part of the problem is when you have people quitting so often.
sure.
fair enough?
gotta
You have
fill
to
the
bring
gap.
people up to felony.
She
You gotta,
said it. Lord said it.
But in an ideal situation where you had more stability, you wouldn't have to have changes so often. And, it really irritates me when prosecutors don't respond, because I have always, there's no excuse anymore. You have a phone with your email on it. You've got your laptop with you. There is no
You're riding
reason.
the bus every day for
Yes.
like 20 to 30
All that
minutes.
time to waste. There is no reason, if you email somebody, for them not to just shoot you right back and just say, hey, I moved to this court, so-and-so took my spot.
Right.
That takes 2 seconds. There's no
agree.
excuse not to do it.
As the Republican candidate and the Republican district attorney coming in, do you have any differences in regard to the policies that some of these Dems are pushing regarding marijuana and even as far as sex crimes? So let's address the first. What's your stance on marijuana?
As far as being the district attorney, it is not up to the DA to decide what crimes to prosecute. If it's against the law, it gets prosecuted. If you don't like it, you go to the legislature. It's not up to the DA and it's not up to the judges. Kim's misdemeanor marijuana program has not worked at all. It is done pre-charge, so the officers on the streets are giving these people, here's this information, show up to this class, and they just don't. So at intake, there'd be papers this high waiting to be turned into warrants that aren't going to get served anyway. So it's just been kind of a pointless
I always
paperwork.
wondered about that.
Yeah,
If they don't do it, what are you going to do to
they don't do anything.
issue a warrant for a marijuana case?
Yeah, there's no personal responsibility. It's just, it hasn't worked. At least with Pat Likas, she did it post-charge.
Right.
I think it worked a little better. At least you had to kind of behave for 6 months or a year, whatever it was.
Talk to us about it being a post-charge, because I guess you're right. I mean, I haven't seen a misdemeanor marijuana in a long time, and I guess they're just not coming through the channels because they're getting diverted, I suppose.
Yes.
Got like 5 of them.
But they're not,
maybe.
they're not showing up to these programs, and there's no consequence because nobody's turning those into warrants and serving them.
What do you talk about post-charge? So like just a standard, like kind of, talk to me about that.
I mean, you could have a standard program that applied to everybody post-charge, but I think it should be individualized. I think we should, pretrial intervention's always been available. It's not something new. It wasn't invented by Kim or anybody else.
Fair enough.
It's there.
Fair enough.
And it's appropriate in a lot of cases. And there's no reason that we can't look at the cases and say, hey, this kid's 19 years old and he's never been in trouble. Pretrial diversion.
Are there any limitations to what you believe a pretrial diversion or pretrial intervention should be offered in types of cases and such? Like, where do you draw the line?
Well, like a 19-year-old who never had any problems and doing well otherwise and gets charged with burglary of a habitation.
Ooh.
That's a tough one. That would be very fact-based.
That's good.
And so you're not closing the door.
No.
Okay.
There are times when you see these
Fair enough.
First of all, intake takes things that are not appropriate.
Amen.
They're overcharged, they're undercharged. You have Berg Habs that are trespassing at grandma's house.
Right. Right.
That is not a Berg Hab. Come
yes,
on.
it's not.
So it's the overcharging at intake that is a problem.
Let's talk about intake.
How do you change it? Because right now, the names on the intake charges, I'm like, I have never seen this person in court. I know some of these people, they were recent hires who've never seen a courtroom.
Some of the people in intake are
years.
good. Some of the people in intake are good.
I'm just
saying.
I'm just saying some of the names I see are people who I know, and I'm like, you have not been in a courtroom in 15 years. And you just started working in the DA's office
Right.
a year and a half ago. So how do you change that?
Probably the second biggest mistake that Kim made was professionalizing intake. And that's her word. From day one, she kept talking about she was going to professionalize intake.
I don't know what that means.
She didn't want it to be an extra job anymore for the prosecutors because she thought they were making too much money.
That's terrible.
Really,
And I
they
think-
fight over intake, like shift.
Well, so that was a big deal. About the pay cuts, the time and a halves, not time and a
Right.
halves, credit time, those kind of stuff.
So she started hiring people to just work intake. And, that was kind of a slow process. So the shifts for the rest of us got less and less. So then they cut the pay. It went from time and a half to straight time. And a lot of people just said, I'm
a
not
lot of
doing
people
this.
left.
Yeah.
A lot of people left.
So it was harder and harder to fill the few available shifts. It got to the point where it was pretty much just weekend shifts that were available. And half the time they run short because people don't want to work them. And the professional intake people, a lot of them are either fresh out of law school. She's hired people from other states who never practiced Texas law. And you can see that in the charging decisions.
Right.
They're terrible.
They're terrible. There's no ownership. When you're in a court and these officers call and you're listening, the whole time I would always think, do I want this in my court? Do I want this in my court?
Yes.
Do I want to get
chance
stuck?
I take this case? Or
Right.
some
I
chance
might
could
get
end
it.
Yeah.
Right. So you use your brain a little more. You think it through. You tell the officers you need to do this, this, and this. Just because you ask them to do these three things doesn't mean that you're declining charges.
Sure.
There's nothing wrong with expecting them to do their job and investigate further.
Agreed.
But if there's no ownership, if you're never going to see, you're guaranteed to never see the case again, it's a lot easier to just say yes than to actually use your brain and think it through.
It's incredible, I think. And so,
So the way we would fix it,
so let's talk about the fixes.
the way we're going to fix it is there's not going to be any more professionalized intake. It's going to go, you want something that's going to go back to the way it used to be? That's it.
Okay.
Intake.
And the pay for that intake?
Back to time and a half. And holidays need to be special holiday pay. Expecting people to work Christmas for straight time is just BS.
I love it.
I mean, come
I
on.
love it.
There's
Lord,
gotta be
making
some incentive.
promises. I agree, though. There has to be. Okay, I'm in the defense perspective. We've been browbeating the district attorney's office for 100 years. Okay, and
Browbeating.
I'm just one manifestation of them. And I look and I see them. The office is down. And they're looking for leadership. And I'm not saying Kim isn't, District Attorney Ogg isn't the solution. I'm not. But maybe you are.
They need somebody who has been in the trenches with them.
Fair.
Not someone who was a prosecutor 30 years ago when the dockets were a quarter of the size. I have no problem going in and working a docket. If you're shorthanded, I can help. I'm not above it.
You know what's
So would you? Well, then let's ask this then. So would you start taking marijuana charges again?
Yes.
Okay.
we're talking like just dude smoking a joint at a Willie Nelson concert. You taking him? Just a question.
You know what would be really nice is if police officers would use their discretion because they have
Fair.
it too.
It's true. They have
And-
more than y'all do.
Yeah, they really do.
Fair enough.
There are instances where somebody's never been in trouble before and the officer can make that determination and flush it down the toilet.
Well, because you're gonna end up having a whole bunch of marijuana cases and everybody's gonna get on bond.
Right.
Well, so can you say on TV now, like, you're going to enforce the laws the legislature gives it to you? Do you think the legislature should consider changing any of those laws?
I do. Especially when it comes to medical marijuana, I see no reason for that not to be legal.
Hold on. What are you gonna do when you got 10,000 misdemeanor marijuana jury trials that are coming? Because I swear to God, I'm
setting all of them.
setting all of them.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I swear to you.
You know, they've done all this screwy stuff with, you know, the percentages of THC and all that, and
Yeah.
you know, the testing and everything. If we don't have the means to test it, that's a problem.
Fair.
And you know, we need to ferret that out and see what resources we have and what ability we have to test it. That's going to play a big factor. And it may be that the legislature did that because they want the easy way out. They don't want to legalize it, but they want to make it so it's impossible to
Hard
prosecute.
to criminalize. Yeah.
Right. So
Fair enough.
we've got to find what we can do in a fair and reasonable manner, what we can afford to do, and what's practical.
Well, I don't think Lori cares about the joint. I don't. You've been around it and you've seen enough riffraff.
She
I
just
don't.
said she doesn't, but she's.
No,
but she
I mean,
cares
I'm
about
not saying she
enforcing the
does
law.
or doesn't. But I don't think she does.
I hope I spend more time worrying about aggravated robberies and murders than I do about marijuana.
I agree.
Because
I
those
hope
are the
so
people
too,
that.
But when you start, I think when you start taking on marijuana cases, you know, you're gonna have to take away some work on the robberies and the murders.
Well,
right?
and-
that's what Kim says. That's what Kim says, and that's why she says that she's done this, is so that she can focus more on violent crimes. Now, obviously, there's disagreements on whether or not that's really where her focus has been, but what do you think? I mean, you're right. You do have a duty to enforce the law as it's written by the legislature, but you also have finite resources.
Right.
Yeah, how are you going to balance that?
Well, and
You
that's
think
what
you
I'm
can balance
talking
that?
about is we have to see as far as what the labs are capable of doing and what we're capable of outsourcing and paying for, and see, you know, because I don't know how much money is being allocated where, you know, how that's going. That's one of the things we would need to do and sit down and look at, because while we do want to prosecute the cases that are against the law, we also do have to, you know, we have limited resources.
Do you think so? There's a big issue. Let's talk about resources and manpower. A lot of times you just need a lawyer in the courtroom. Kim, District Attorney Ogg can't get more prosecutors. On the flip side, you have some candidates saying that more prosecutors aren't the answer. You have Commissioner's Court saying, we ain't giving you any more prosecutors. And even on the Democrat side, Kim Ogg saying, we need more prosecutors.
Going into Commissioner's Court and asking for 102 prosecutors all at once and it being and expecting to be taken seriously is ridiculous.
Is it?
No one's going to give you 102
agree.
more prosecutors, for God's sakes. Be real.
1 million prosecutors. I agree. It's silly.
One of the most important things is getting 4 prosecutors per district court. There was a period of time where we had that. We weren't able to fill all 22 courts, but they tried to kind of do 7 at a time. And there was a time that when I was in the 351st years ago, that we had 4 prosecutors, and it made a huge difference. It was easier to give somebody an office day to work on their cases because you still had 3 people. You know, your cases, you didn't have as many. I mean, it made a huge difference. And I don't know that we need more prosecutors yet from Commissioner's Court. We need to allocate what we've got, because there's a lot of waste in that office right now.
Let's talk about
too many media people, too many community outreach people that are campaigners. You know, we need to see where the money's being wasted, put that back into the trial bureau. And then I think if Commissioner's Court sees that you're being responsible with the money and the budget, and then you say, hey, you know, I need 10 more. I think that's a lot easier to swallow.
I also think that the next district attorney that goes into Commissioner's Court, whose name is not Kim Ogg, and asks for more money for more prosecutors, is going to get it.
They're both dams, though. Well, I guess Commissioner's Court is its own thing.
Yeah, but, you know, think about who's running it and what their big agenda is, bail reform. Think about what Kim was, what her position was on bail reform, and what it is now.
Let's talk about bail reform.
We already did.
I know that, but I mean, we could stir it up again.
I want to ask, because look, I told you the time's flying very fast.
Is it really?
As a defense attorney in the last year, have you interacted with any prosecutors who have no idea who you are?
Yes.
That's incredible to me.
Have they been professional and respectful to you at all times, or have you noticed any lack of professionalism and respect?
I have seen it toward other people. I haven't personally experienced that, but I have seen prosecutors who are not getting their job done.
How do you change that if you're at the very top, how do you change that all the way down to the number 3 in a county court or a district court?
You need good leadership in each court. I mean, if you have experienced chiefs, you know, who have more than 5 trials, then, they're better able to train their 2 and their 3. And you have to look out for one another. And part of the problem is Harvey. Part of the problem is all of the wasted time taking that damn justice trolley, that they call it, between the building and the courthouse. That is a big problem. And I know Kim, it's her goal to never go back into the criminal justice center. We're spending God knows how many $1 million running that, building 2 miles away. I want back in the CJC as fast as we can. If it's good enough for the PD's office, it's good enough for the DA's office.
Sure.
You think you got the skin to be the top lawyer, top law enforcement officer? I mean that. I'm asking genuinely.
I know what you mean. And being, doing this whole campaign thing, for the past couple months, it's hard because it's kind of an emotional roller coaster because everybody has feelings, even if you're in politics. And you don't like, being criticized or, it's been hard. So, some days I'm like, this is awesome. I've got this. And other days I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? So I'm just human.
Yeah, I think that's a normal
Let's talk
response.
about human. Where are you from, Lori?
I was born in upstate New York and I grew up in Florida. Went to University of Florida for undergrad.
So how long are you in upstate New York?
God, 13 years.
I've never been. You've been up
You're
there?
not missing
Upstate,
anything.
yeah. I would love to go. It's all the woods, right?
Yeah.
Woods and
it's
snow.
cold.
What would be a city up there that we can put on a map or something?
Rochester?
Yeah. You're not missing anything.
Albany?
Albany?
Yeah. That's
capital?
upstate.
I heard it gets pretty
capital?
cold up there.
Yeah.
Dude, we're from Texas. You're
I
from
don't-
the valley. It gets cold. It gets cold in
I'm literally
Oklahoma.
from the other part of this country. I'm just asking.
I like
real
Florida
cold in
much
You've never been
better.
up there?
I've been to New York City, but not upstate New York.
And so,
It just
what
seems like
took you to
upstate New
Florida?
York is everything that's not New York City. It's like everything else. Is
Yeah,
upstate.
kind of.
I stayed in downtown Manhattan
That's all
once.
I've done, yeah.
I think it's Manhattan is New York. In the event. So what took you to Florida?
Eventually,
Parents, probably.
yeah.
Let Lori answer, please.
Well,
I just, there's softball questions, and then there's what took you to Florida at the age of 13?
I'm trying to ask you about
without
it.
going through all the details of divorce, I went to live with my mom in Florida.
Oh.
I am a child of divorce. Your parents were divorced?
Yes.
Were yours? No. Your father was an artist,
Yes.
and your mother lives in Magnolia.
Yeah, but we're not talking about me. What are you doing, JV?
I'm a child of divorce as well. Do you? Okay. So
You graduated University of Florida. What happened after that?
I moved to Texas and went to Baylor Law School, and
I
then
saw that Baylor.
got
88.
interviewed for the DA's office while at Baylor, got a pre-commit spot, and graduated and moved to Harris County. Never left.
they say Florida's a lot like Texas.
Yeah.
That's what they say. They say Florida's a lot like Texas.
Yeah.
I've never been to Florida. I haven't been much places. I'm not kidding. How long were you? So you skipped a little bit. I was trying to get. So she moved to Florida.
Okay. All right. Go
Lori
for
moved
it.
to Florida, and you went and
High school and college. And,
where in Florida?
Royal Palm Beach, South Florida.
Where is that? Like, I don't know where that is. South.
No, you just said you've never been to Florida before.
It is
I'm asking some questions.
north of Fort Lauderdale.
Wonderful.
Do you know where that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know where that is.
Where is it?
Like if you think of Orlando, Disney World is kind of being central Florida, and Miami is being way south. It's kind of like over here.
Can you read my mind? Is that? I'm kidding. So then you went to Baylor.
Yes.
How does so Florida to Baylor is what makes me think like
Okay, that was a huge
weird.
change.
Okay, I'm thinking weird.
My first day of law school, I got to campus. It took me like half an hour to find a place to park, and there were news vans all over the place. And I was like, what the? It turns out that was the first day that Baylor students were allowed to dance on campus.
Oh, I remember that.
Are you
And I was
serious?
like, you couldn't dance?
Are you sure it wasn't just Footloose?
I was
That's what it felt like. But I was
in-
just like, oh, okay. That's
I was in summer debate camp that summer, and the debate club camp got to have a dance. And I mean, we were debaters. We didn't want to have a dance, but the school community outreach people were really wanted us to have a dance. So yeah.
And so
Debate
that was
dance.
kind of welcome to
I
Texas.
remember that. That's crazy. 1998.
Yep.
Waco.
Yeah.
That would have been, no, that was
Footloose.
95.
It was like
when I
Footloose.
Yeah.
Footloose. It's Footloose.
Yeah.
I love that movie. You know
too.
that movie. Okay, so then you get a pre-commit. I'm sorry, I wasn't.
Yes.
Okay, and to Harris County to Houston. Mm-hmm. How'd you like Houston? How's it grown?
I love it.
And
Still here.
Have you, were you always like Houston proper, or have you
No.
lived burbs?
When I moved here, we were kind of out in Copperfield area, and then 4 years ago we moved to Spring.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. I live in Pearland. I'm a Pearland kind of dude.
So, the DA's office, you're going to start taking marijuana charges again.
Yes.
Audia Jones says she wants to stop taking all sex crimes, prostitution, johns, and sex workers. Obviously, you're not on board with that.
No.
What do you do? I mean, Kim's spent a lot of time working on, you're right, District Attorney Ogg spent a lot of time working on human trafficking is a big thing for her. What do you think? Has she done anything in there that you think is good and you'd continue on with that or change it or what?
I think it's good that, she developed a human trafficking division. When I think of human trafficking, I think of people being brought across state lines or, being brought in from other countries and forced into sexual slavery, essentially. To me, that's what human trafficking is. Choosing to post ads on Backpage.com and be a high-priced prostitute, I don't see that as human trafficking. I see that as a lifestyle choice.
And those cases are getting
And as
folded
long as
into that.
that's against the law, that's going to be prosecuted.
All of it. Johns,
Sure.
females.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, if they have a defense that under the law, then they'll execute that defense under the
Right.
law when it comes
But your
to it.
standard prostitution situation should be prosecuted.
I just think that the whole system's going to crash. You don't got enough people to do it. You don't got enough people.
We did it before and we'll do it again.
God, you guys.
You reorganize, you streamline, you get, consistency, people know what to expect. It's too much in disarray right now.
I agree.
It is.
I used to know that when I go up, I'm going to fight the prosecution. Now, I don't know what they're going to say, quite frankly. It's like, meh. I'm telling you. And, it was a different kind of advocacy.
Yes. And I don't feel like there's a lot of advocacy anymore. It's just kind of like this social work type of environment. And, there's supposed to be two sides. You meet in the middle.
And lawyers coming for you.
Well, there used to be respect for one another on both sides.
Fair enough.
As a prosecutor, I always loved working with the defense attorneys. We all are friends. We have so many friends on both sides, and everybody enjoyed working together. Everybody got along. You fought hard and you played hard. And it doesn't seem to be that way anymore. There's a lot of just some of the younger people don't know who these lawyers are that they're dealing with, and they don't realize that, this
Sure.
lawyer's awesome.
Right.
Sure. I agree.
And they're not showing the proper respect. They think they know everything and they don't know anything.
Sure.
We need to work on that relationship. We need to work on the relationship between the DA's office and the police agencies. There's just been a breakdown overall in the whole system.
Couple things. So you're the new district attorney's. You're the new district attorney. What are the? You have ideas. What do you want to accomplish? Why? I mean, top 3 things that you want to do. 100. You're coming in. I'm loading the question up.
Or more than 3 or whatever you think.
Yeah. What is it?
I mean, it's pretty simple. I want to bring experienced prosecutors back to the DA's office. That will help with a lot of the other situations that are a problem. I want to change intake back to being an extra job for experienced prosecutors so we don't have all this garbage coming through. And I think that will make a difference in the trial courts.
I do.
I want to make sure that we are looking at these bonds closer on the violent felonies, and we're not this revolving door that we are now. I feel like it's not being done consistently as far as filing motions for high bond or no bond. It's not consistently presented to the magistrates or the judges. There needs to be some organization to that.
It's interesting, as a defense attorney coming out and picking up and practicing as a defense attorney, you can kind of gauge what cases are falling through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
As a defense attorney, yeah, I count on some cases falling through the cracks. I do.
Mm-hmm.
And in the sense of they'll have that justice part is going to come at some point in the process, but it might not come as soon as we're and as if there was more of a watchful eye on it.
Mm-hmm. And this discovery unit thing that's going on, I don't know, is it just me or is it taking 10 times longer for you to get anything?
I think it's about 20
I didn't know there
times
was
longer.
a discovery unit. 'Cause
Yes.
I was like, are these the people who are holding up all the discovery?
Yes.
So yes, it is taking.
Yes. That started after I left. I don't quite understand it, other than the prosecutors being like, oh, well, I sent it to the discovery unit. Well, it's been 4 settings and I still need an offense report from LaPorte. So what
I
are we
agree.
going to do?
Where's the portal at?
It's ridiculous.
It is.
So we've got to fix that. That's just not working.
HPD just hired a second custodian of records. So now
Wanda
there's-
O'Brien?
No, Wanda retired.
I didn't know Wanda retired.
Sandra Clark has been it, and now there's Wileen something, and they split. So you got your offense report number. If it's an even number, it's one person. If it's an odd number, it's the other.
Wileen?
Wileen. I
You
can't
should be
remember
like,
the last name.
Wileen, why are you crying? Wileen, Wileen, no? So
We love Wileen.
So anyway.
Wileen gets us all the videos that we need a lot faster than the DA's office does.
Yes.
Don't listen to JV.
But yes, it's taking way too long and we've got to fix that. That's just, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
So,
So that takes cooperation with law enforcement,
Sure.
right? And
do you think you have those relationships?
Yes.
do you think that there's
I do.
anything about the lack of relationships maybe right now that might explain why there's some things being held up? Do you think that's
I would like to think everybody's more professional than that.
So would
and
I.
they're not just holding things up to be
I would-
jerks, but
Fair.
I would
and I
like a
think
lot of
it's-
things that are not reality.
and I'm sure they're understaffed as well. I know
Sure.
the body cams take a long time to process. There's a backlog and it's irritating. But, I don't know how many, employees they have on that. It would be nice to speed that up. I don't know that there's anything the DA can do about it.
That's what I'm saying.
But the offense reports and stuff, come on.
I agree,
It
but
should
what are you
not
going to
take-
do about it? You can't, and I'm afraid you're going to look like.
Because we had the paralegal in each court doing that.
Oh, fair.
Not having it shipped to some discovery unit.
This is totally
yeah.
disconnected
Eh,
from everything.
Fair enough.
Yeah. If you
Fair
keep
enough.
it within the court and you keep it organized, it works a lot better.
Operating like your court. I
Yes.
remember that. Can we put the number up? We have 5 minutes left. Maybe someone will
So-
call in.
So what do you think about this? So you guys have paralegals. As a defense attorney, do you have a paralegal?
No.
How much of your work is appointed work right now? Rough
Almost
estimate.
all of it.
If the county provided funds for court appointments where you could have, like when you submitted your voucher, you could submit hours for a paralegal, would that make you more likely to hire a paralegal?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good idea. I know some of the lawyers have talked about it.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like with my caseload, I'm fine.
Sure.
But yeah, I haven't been doing it long enough to have, that pile of murders or something that's
Sure.
stacking up. But yeah, I could see in a lot of situations where that would help you.
How do you like defending people? It's tough.
It is, but
It can be.
I think the same way on this side as I did as a prosecutor.
I
That's
mean,
the thing.
I mean it as as we're sitting here,
No, I know.
as a defense group. Like, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's taxing.
So you approach things based on what the evidence shows.
Right.
Yeah.
But being at the DA's office the last couple of years were so stressful, and you just felt like you were constantly watching your back.
Mm-hmm.
Being a defense attorney is like a breeze compared to it. It was like 100-pound weight being lifted off my shoulders.
And you got the backs of your office. You're gonna have, how many lawyers you got? 200 or 300 under you?
A few hundred, yeah.
There's gonna be some that came in that don't have the ideals as you do as a Republican. I mean, there might be, right?
It's not about party. It's not about, oh, this person can't be a prosecutor with me because
Fair.
they're a
Talk to
Democrat.
us
That's
about it.
ridiculous. It's, do you have what it takes to be a prosecutor? Do you care about justice? And are you willing to do the right thing?
I don't know, but I don't know if there's a lot of prosecutors that can prosecute the misdemeanor marijuanas and stuff. Like you're gonna ask people to prosecute those things, and I don't think that there's a lot of individuals down there right now that can look us in the eyes and do it. I don't.
I kind of think there are.
Well,
I think
maybe.
there's enough that are going to look at it like Lori's saying.
It's just another case.
It's a case, and especially when they start scrolling down and looking at other criminal history, then they start going, I have no problem.
God, am I the only one? Am I the only one with the heart?
I don't think they should
not
do it,
about-
JV.
Am I the only one that's
I don't think they should do it. I'm
I
just
don't
telling
think
you, I don't
so.
think it'd be a problem.
You know what
for
I
it.
tell my clients?
What do you tell them?
Help me out. Smoke marijuana at home.
Fair
Don't
enough.
get in your car with your expired inspection, your expired registration, your tail light out,
understand, I
no front
understand.
license plate,
I understand.
and smoke marijuana and have the car smell. Come on.
understand.
That's
I
the Jim
understand.
Anderson
I mean,
speech,
come
right?
on.
Yeah,
I get it.
You know?
I hear you.
It's like, what do you do with those
That's
people?
too
It's like,
big,
how.
smaller.
Yeah.
Even smaller. Yeah. No, I
Okay.
hear you. Like most of my clients are their own worst enemies. and it just
Exactly.
ends up making my job harder, but
Exactly.
I like it.
That's one solution to it is just keep it at home.
Yeah. Just leave it at home.
Use Uber.
The cops can't pull your house over as easily
Right.
as they can your car.
If you're in
It's
an
a
Uber,
warrant.
it's the driver's problem,
Yeah.
not yours.
Yeah.
You ready for this, Lori? I think you're the only legitimate candidate on the Republican side.
I'm certainly the most experienced candidate.
You're certainly the most
Most
experienced.
experience on both sides.
Well,
Yes, actually.
Lloyd has experience. I'm not kidding. Lloyd
Was he
has
a DA?
experience. I'm not kidding.
Lloyd is-
Lloyd's been everything.
Lloyd is special.
Lloyd is like Superman.
I missed that. It was last week, right?
It was amazing. The dude, we have like
The baby got sick, so I was out last week. But is he still like stop prosecuting domestic violence cases like altogether?
you need to watch. No, you don't. I'm not here to like. We're not here
Okay,
to talk
you're right,
about
you're
Lloyd
right,
on
right.
Lori's
Forget
show.
Lloyd.
Sorry.
Forget
Yeah,
Lloyd.
I'm not here to talk about.
I have-
Contact tase me after the show.
I have more prosecutorial
Yes, you do.
experience than any candidate on either side. And it's not experience from 20 years ago. It's experience from last year.
Right.
I know what the office is facing. I know what the caseloads are. I know what the issues are. I know the problems Harvey's created. You know, I was just there.
Yeah.
And I think that goes a long way.
Ready for the keys.
Lori D'Angelo's got your back. We're gonna start to wrap, so you got last word with the camera.
Early voting starts Tuesday, the 18th, so we're almost there. Primary is on March 3rd. It is very important to vote. People think, oh, well, what's the big deal? My one vote doesn't count. But if a bunch of people say that, then you end up in situations where you have Lena Hidalgo instead of Ed Emmett because you didn't think your one vote mattered. Every single vote matters.
That was a tight
So
race.
vote in the Republican primary. For me.
Lori D'Angelo. Lori got your back.
Do you have a website?
DangeloforDA.com.
All right.
I swear, when I go into court, and if it's Lori D'Angelo's office, we better be ready. Better be ready.
It's going to be better. It's going to be more efficient. People are going to be happier, and we're going to work together.
Justin, anything else to say?
No, that was great.
I think so
Just
too.
I'm sorry, you're right. I shouldn't have said anything about another candidate. Like,
Hey, no, we're finishing the top. Lori D'Angelo, to true her name. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for
yes,
having
thank
me.
you.